University of Social Sciences Blockchain Living Lab here in Singapore. And with me today, I'm very pleased and very privileged to have Henry Wang, who is the founder of SmartMesh, as well as the founder of the World Web3 Alliance, and also a fellow of SUSS, which is the Singapore University of Social Sciences. You are going to share with us what you meant by Web 3.0 versus Web 3. So thank you so much, Henry, for your time today.
Thank you very much, Jing, having me here.
So you originally coined the word Web 3.0 back in 20 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
2003.
2003. So before we talk about the difference between Web 3.0 and Web 3, tell us what inspired you to coin the term. What happened back then that made you think that, okay, I need to, come up with this term?
Yeah. So at that time, I was pursuing my PhD study in the computer science department in Washington University in St. Louis. And also, I was working in a semiconductor design company. So I traveled a lot, but even though we have the internet, but it's very hard for people to communicate. So I want to build one world, one web, so that everyone can use his native language to communicate with other peoples. And he can own his own data, and this data can be translated on demand so that he can communicate with all other people speaking their own native languages. So that's the origin of Web 3.0, but the real definition actually came from Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web. In 2006, 3 years after I coined this terminology, and he defined it as decentralized. So the decentralization is very important for him because when he invented HTTP, and after several years, he found the data and application are bundled together so that our internet, our web, became more and more centralized. When Tim Berners-Lee defined the Web 3.0, and he published one article in 2008. And in the same year, Satoshi Nakamoto also published one article. We call it the Bitcoin whitepaper. And Tim Berners-Lee and Satoshi Nakamoto, actually, they stayed in the same group, Cypherpunk, the famous Cypherpunk email group. So they both in this group, but they don't work with each other. But actually, their efforts is actually the real Web 3.0, which means Tim Berners-Lee, actually, the article is about the Web 3.0 data and application protocol. And Satoshi Nakamoto actually published an article about the value transmission and peer-to-peer and transmission part of the Web 3.0. And put them together, that's a real Web 3.0. But unfortunately, they never work with each other.
Right, okay.
So
that's very interesting. Yeah, so tell us what is the difference between Web 3 and the Web 3.0s? Because I think a lot of the popular ideas is that Gavin Wood, was the originator of the term Web 3, but it's not in fact the case.
Yeah. Gavin Wood actually borrowed the Web 3.0 concepts, ideas from Tim Berners-Lee. But, later they emphasize only on cross-chain, only on blockchain and crypto, digital assets.
Right. Yeah,
but they still use this terminology to disrupt Facebook and Twitter. So that will not happen. So that Web 3 is actually wrong. So Web 3.0 means the next generation web.
Okay.
So the next generation web have some important features. So first, decentralization. Why? This is the most important because the problem with the first and the second generation is too much centralization, monopoly of data, right? And the data ownership. Data ownership and decentralization, they are coupled, right? Decentralization means we need to return data ownership to users. So this is two most important features.
Right, I see.
And the third one is the dissemination. but people tend to forget. But it's very critical because the purpose of Web 3.0 is not return data ownership to users and let the data, stay to the people and cannot be used by others.
Right, yeah,
So
course,
the dissemination means when you return data ownership to users, you actually confirm the ownership. But the data should be able to be used by the public.
Of course,
But the fourth definition is privacy. So when the data can be used by others, you need to protect privacy. So privacy data, you can authorize or you can choose not authorize. So that's the real and the Web 3.0 definition from the very beginning, I think in the year of 2008.
Right, I see.
Okay. The same year, Satoshi Nakamoto published Bitcoin white paper, which we call the Web 3.0 right side protocol. And the Tim Berners-Lee's article in the same year, and we call it Web 3.0 data application protocol. We call it the left part. But they never come together.
Right.
And Gavin Wood used Web 3 actually to split these two into two totally different directions. So Tim Berners-Lee is working on the data ownership part, and the whole blockchain working on digital assets. But the digital assets have nothing to back up.
Okay. So,
Token value should be backed up by users' data, but they don't emphasize data. So they only emphasize digital assets. So that's why.
Right. Okay. So if I understand you right, so Gavin Wood's definition of Web 3 and only address the decentralization part, but not the data ownership part, not the, well, it also addressed, I guess, to some extent the dissemination part, but not the data ownership part, not returning data, the ownership of data to the users.
The ownership of digital assets, but they don't talk about ownership of data. Right? Or social data, consumer data, bank, financial data, health data.
As well. Yes. That's right. Okay. So, and of course, blockchain is not the only technology that can fulfill Sir Tim Berners-Lee's vision of Web 3.0. As I understand it, he himself came up with a different sort of technology infrastructure called Solid.
Yeah, Tim Berners-Lee's Solid protocol is very beautiful, very elegant. And he separated data and applications. And he used a pod to store personal data. I call it personal online data. And you can store your banking information, health information, and actually everything onto the pod.
Is this a hardware device?
It's a software. It can run on the cloud or it can run on the decentralized storage. Okay. So it run on the centralized, for example, the cloud server. But the whole solution, the logic, is still centralized because people can take control of their own data. And they can decide which application can use what data. So that means data and application is separated.
Okay, so, right. So it's a software layer that talks to different applications. And it allows myself to decide what kind of data from the pod can be shared with the different types of application.
Yes. So in the pod, people can store yourself data and into the pod. And you can authorize which application to use. And also the application, when use the data, they should still be able to store the data back to the pod. So your data grows. The value also grows.
So that means that it can talk with traditional, I guess, software such as WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, but it also can also talk to blockchain.
So it is designed and solid designed to talk to the platforms. For example, WhatsApp, Facebook, or whatever. But those centralized platforms, they don't like solid because no one wants to return data ship to users, right? So from very beginning, and Tim Berners-Lee think he can use internet contract actually to ask all those big players to support the next generation web. But it failed. Okay. So the next part, the blockchain and crypto, this have the incentivization. So we only unite them together. I have this theory called the grand unified theory of Web 3.0. Only we combine them together, we can solve this issue.
So if we take the example of Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin, I think to many of our audience, we sort of have the perception that we already own the Bitcoin on our wallet. We own the private keys. So the data, the ownership of the data is already with us. That is the perception that many users have.
Yes. So yes, actually the concept of people own their own data on the Bitcoin network. So this like perception is wrong. So on Bitcoin, you only own the Bitcoin you have.
Correct.
Right? If you are a miner or you just buy some Bitcoin and you own your own digital assets, but you don't own data. Data means your data in Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, right? So have nothing to do with the blockchain.
Okay, got it. I understand.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So Bitcoin, Ethereum alone, with this kind of blockchain, they can never disrupt Web 2, right? Web 2 is about the data ownership, or centralization or decentralization, right? So this part is critical because, all the big companies like Meta, Facebook, and they make a lot of money and with the users' data, right? So that data actually should belong to users so that the wealth and should be distributed to people, right? So, but the blockchain cannot help on that. So only data separation application. For example, Metalife. Metalife it looks like an application, but actually it's a protocol. So Facebook is a decentralized social network. So all your data and privacy is stored in their server. And the Metalife is a fully decentralized because there's no centralized server anymore. So your data only stored on your device and through decentralized social graph stored on peer-to-peer on other devices. So there's no centralized server. Okay, so no one can steal your privacy and data.
So if I get you right, Metalife is the decentralized version of Facebook.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
So it's not meant to talk to Facebook.
This is the next generation
of
Facebook and
of
Twitter.
Social media.
Yeah, social media.
Oh, right, I see, got it, okay.
Yeah. It's also different from Solid. For the data and the application separation protocol part, it's works the same as Solid. Okay, but for the monetization part, it's different. Because Solid, user need to pay for Solid because even though the data belongs to users, but the people have no way to monetize it. So they still need to make payment to the storage.
Oh, okay.
But for Metalife, the Metalife protocol help to monetize users' data. So they don't need to pay anything. But they can also earn tokens with their data.
Oh, okay. So if I get you right, Solid, Metalife is a sort of slightly more advanced version of Solid in the way that it has this monetization function.
Yes.
But in terms of objectives, both Metalife and Solid has the same main objective, which is return ownership of this data to the users. Okay. It sounds like, there's a lot of advantages to use. Well, there's definitely a very compelling case to, to move to this Web 3.0 sort of vision. What is stopping people from doing it?
Okay.
For example, Solid has been around for 8 years, 9 years, but the adoption is still quite slow.
Okay. So this is a very good question, and people also asked this question to Tim Berners-Lee. And Tim Berners-Lee's answer is like this. When he initially invented HTTP, and nobody used it, but Netscape make HTTP, boom, and Metalife will make solid, boom.
Right,
Okay.
I see. So what you're saying is that Metalife will be like the Netscape, which is, open people's eyes to the need for this
Decentralized
vision.
social
Yeah,
network
that's
and
right.
Web 3.0.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And of course, this is also part of your work with SmartMesh as well, decentralization aspect to return more control over the infrastructure to people, and especially in regions where there is not a lot of existing infrastructure. That is a business case for decentralized infrastructure to come in and become a key player.
Yes. So actually, when we talk about the internet and the web, sometimes it's a different concept. So the internet means a lot of infrastructure, right? For example, routers and like undersea fibers, right? Base stations and the cellular and the system, billing system. So the internet is huge. And when we talk about the web, we talk about the application level
Of course.
of the web, right? So in the past, it's information internet plus Web 2.0 web, okay? So the next generation web will be Web 3.0, but the underlayer will not be information internet. It will be value internet. So the value internet will have both like a solid Metalife as a data application protocol, and with blockchain crypto as value transmission protocol. But the underlying hardware infrastructure will also be revolutionized. So that we call the DePin. So decentralized physical infrastructure network. So SmartMesh and Meshbox is a pioneer for the DePin network, okay? Because they actually can form like a mesh network, and a scalable mesh network, even scalable to the whole planet, but in parallel of internet, the current centralized internet. So with the progress of the low Earth orbital satellites, for example, Starlink, these constellations, and more uplink will be available and all around our planet. So anywhere with a mesh box can connect into the Starlink, and with a mesh network to provide space-ground integration network to the emerging countries. So we can easily bring all the 3 billion people into the value internet within 10 years.
Right, Internet of Value, we call it nowadays.
Value internet.
Oh, value internet.
Yeah, value internet.
Right, okay.
In the value internet, the data and the value are always switched together. So we call it a token switch. Okay.
Token switch.
So in token switching, every data and carry values. And with Web 3.0, we actually connected human data together and with ownership and authenticated. But all the data will be connected together to form a web of data.
Right.
So Web 3.0 also means, from the perspective of Metalife, it's a decentralized global data exchange.
Right.
Okay.
So it goes back to your original vision, like 25 years ago, right?
Yes.
When you coined the term.
Yeah, one world, one
right,
web.
Yes, yeah. So you want to bring people together. So it seems like it's been a journey for the last 20 years,
yes,
and it sounds
yes.
like you still have a lot of interesting challenges ahead.
So it's a lot of coincidence about this. The 21 years ago, the translation on demand. That's the patent I applied in the United States 21 years ago, and the machine translation, the AI, is comparatively it's very backward, right? Rule-based translation, But nowadays, large language models,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
They provide very good translations and very good, reasoning, right? So everyone actually depends on the large language model, also the AI agent in the future to communicate with the world. But centralized AI will be very, very dangerous. So people are so happy that AI is making progress. It's just like you are so happy that nuclear weapons are making progress. But unfortunately, it will be the centralized AI will be even more dangerous than the nuclear weapons. So, which means Web 3.0 is even more important than the centralized AI. So Web 3.0 and every government and regulators should emphasize on the real Web 3.0, because without data protection, the super AI can easily predict your behavior, your consequences after 3 months, in the future 3 months, but you don't know because you have limited data. For example, today we sit here together, right? And we know about this probably 3 weeks ago when you make an appointment with me. But super AI will know about this. We'll know about we will sit together probably several months ago, right? They collect all those data. They know what you are doing. But at that time, I don't know. At that time, you don't know what I'm doing, right? So, but the super AI can find out. So that's the good part. But the dangerous part is like the Mission Impossible, the newest the movie, and they can predict the actor, the male actor, Tom Cruise, will die 3 months later on which train, on which country. And he just cannot believe. But
Yes.
that happened.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we are, all this science fiction, I think, and how real they are or not, I think that deserves a topic that deserves a discussion topic on its own. And I think it's a very, very big topic, and it's in fact something that I'm also very interested in. But thank you very much, Henry, for your time today. I know that we have taken a lot of time of your time today, so really appreciate you giving us a glimpse into what your thoughts were when you coined Web 3.0, how it has evolved over time by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and how it has worked with other pioneers in the decentralized space, and also including yourself over the last 25 years, and what challenges that we are facing to actually even move to the next stage. And I think perhaps with AI, it will really, really trigger people to think about this issue of data ownership very seriously. So thank you so much, Henry, for your time today.
Thank you so much.